I would love to begin by saying, let me be clear, just like Liz Truss or Priti Patel or Suella Braverman, but I'm not going to. Instead, I'm going to list the reasons why I think Rwanda is not a safe country. Now, I think Rwanda is a lovely country, and I think Rwanda needs to be given as much opportunity as possible. But we have to face the facts that for some reason our press is very reluctant to detail the things that are perfectly clear elsewhere in Europe or indeed in the United States. It's just we are being extraordinarily coy about committing it to writing. And I think this needs to change. I think we need to be more open. So I'm going to be as clear as I possibly can. So President Paul Kagame secured £120 million from the British government for doing very little. So far, he hasn't hosted any of the refugees that we promised to send him. In the meantime, the United States and Europe have both condemned his support for a militia group called M23. And this militia group has been waging war in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. And there is a belief that M23 is backed by Paul Kagame. In other words, the £120 million that we gave to Kagame, that Suella Braverman gave to Kagame, has been used to support his war effort against the Hutu groups in the Congo. Now that's rather worrying. That's rather worrying. The M23 is accused of mass killings and the rape of civilians. Worrying. Almost 1 million people have been displaced by M23. Worrying. And yet Rwanda, whose government has a direct link, it is alleged, to M23, is going to receive those refugees who we wish them to look after on our behalf. We are asking these people to do our job, and to do our job to the standards that we consider appropriate. In addition, there's evidence of direct interventions by the Rwandan military into the DRC territory, reinforcing the activity of M23 or conducting its own operations against Hutu groups, like, for example, the Force Démocratique de Libération. Many Hutu groups. So that's point one. Point two, Paul Kagame is directly responsible, it appears, for arresting opposition leaders and bringing them to trial. We're thinking particularly here of Paul Rusesabagina. He was sentenced in 2021 to 25 years in jail. He was kidnapped in Dubai on a flight to Burundi and taken by force to Rwanda. He is the person who was the subject of the 2004 film Hotel Rwanda. His prison sentence was subsequently commuted by a presidential pardon, and he flew into exile in the US. The third point is the assassination of rivals, as detailed in books like that of Michael A. Wrong, published in 2022 and shortlisted now for the Orwell Prize. Is he wrong? All of this, these 3 points, plus the 13 refugees killed in 2018 under the protection of the Rwandan government, while they were refugees held in a camp. And no proper investigation has taken place, no proper report has been published. And Suella Braverman, when questioned about when questioned on the Laura Newsberg's programme about the 12 refugees who were killed, claimed not to know anything about it. But there is evidence of letters that Suella Braverman, as Home Secretary, has been sent. Of course, she may not necessarily have received these letters, and if she's anything like Liz Truss, she couldn't be bothered to read them, but she has been sent them. So it's another example of a senior minister who can't be bothered to read her brief. This is far from the friendly regime lionized by Suella Braverman. It's as terrifying a regime, as terrifying a dictatorship as that of Putin or Lukashenko. It doesn't need to be, and I would maintain it's a country that needs our support. But it doesn't need our stamp of approval. And if it gets that, then we are approving of a very shady operation. More than that, we seem to have contributed to financially supporting that shady operation. That makes us potentially complicit. If people complain in Rwanda, they are intimidated. Indeed, there is no point in complaining. There's no route for a complaint. It was attempting to complain that got those 13 refugees shot. If there is no complaint process, there is no free society. If the complaint process is illusory, there is no free society. I think the Rwanda operation is not only worrying because there is a possibility of people being transported back to their original country or being transported to a worse country where they may well be in danger of death or torture, but because we are compromised in our relationship with Rwanda, and because we cannot be sure that this is an honourable regime. And should this regime fall, then what happens to all those refugees who we have trusted to a regime that appears to be very shabby indeed? Are those refugees going to be safe under a new regime? I don't think this is a viable option. And I think we are morally dirty for getting involved in it even thus far.